All right, so now that we've had some time to look at and talk about artwork created by Freudenreich Hundertwasser, we are going to get started on our own landscapes inspired by his artwork. So this artwork that he made, that Hundertwasser made, would be classified as a landscape just because it has land in it. Remember, any type of art that has land in it would be considered a landscape. So even though this is abstract, meaning that it's not realistic and it looks kind of funky and weird, it is still a landscape. So the first thing you're going to do with your piece of paper when you get it is decide which way you want your paper to go. So it could go this way, how I have mine right now, the long way from left to right or horizontal, or you could have your paper this way if you want to. This project, it really doesn't matter which way you have your paper because pretty much everything you do at this point when you're drawing your landscape is going to be completely based off of how you want it to be. And so no two landscapes for this project are going to look the same. So if you want your paper the other way, that's totally fine. But once you have decided which way you want your paper to go, you do need your name and class code. I'm having my paper this way just because that's what makes sense for me. So I'm going to go ahead and write my name on my paper. So once you've decided which way it goes, make sure you have your name and class code on your paper. Okay. And now as I am drawing today, I do want to let you know that I am going to be drawing a little bit darker than you should, okay? Remember, I always say draw light until you know you've got it right. That just means when you're drawing, you should sketch things out very lightly so that if you make a mistake, you will be able to erase it and you won't have any pencil lines left behind. But since I am drawing something that you need to be able to see on camera, I am going to draw kind of dark today, darker than I normally would, just so that it's easier for you guys to see, okay? So the first thing that you are going to need to do when you start your landscape is kind of figure out how you want to divide your space. So since this is a landscape, you most likely are going to have some type of sky and some type of land. So I think what I'm going to do for mine is I'm going to have my sky up at the top, and then I'm going to have two different sections of land. So I need to make some lines so that I can separate those areas. So at the top here, I'm just going to make a line that goes across my paper. And again, I'm drawing a lot darker than you should. Okay, there's line 1 that is separating my sky from the start of my ground. And then maybe down here, I'll just make another line that's really similar to the one I already did. So now I have sky, land, land. And once you have your paper divided into sections similar to this or completely different, once again, it is totally up to you how you design your project, then you can start adding details. So with the list of items that you made that you noticed from Hundertwasser's artwork that you put up on the board, we're going to start pulling some of those items into our landscape so that our artwork can look like it was inspired by him. One thing I've always loved about Hundertwasser's artwork is that he always uses eyes in the artwork somewhere. And so one thing that I know I'm going to have in my paper and on my project are going to be a set of eyes. And the eyes could be doing all types of different things. Sometimes I like to draw my eyes so that they look like they're crying. So then maybe it's a waterfall that runs into another body of water. Or sometimes I just have the eyes there and they can represent like bushes or rocks or something like that. So let's just say I wanted to add a pair of eyes right here on the hillside. So I'll just draw them really quickly. Again, I'm drawing a lot darker than you should, just so that you can see it. So that's where my eyes are going to go. And so then I just need to add my details to my eyes. Okay, and I do want to say everything that you are drawing, we are eventually going to be tracing with some Sharpie. So you don't have to be super, super detailed here because you're going to trace over it. Okay, let's say I want it to be crying here. And then this can kind of look like a waterfall. So maybe I want to have it crying on both sides. And I want it to look like a waterfall, so I'm adding a few different lines here so that the water is coming from different directions. And then it can run into a body of water that comes down here and gets bigger. Okay, so then I could go back and fill that in later, but for the sake of the video, I'm just gonna keep going, okay? Now, as you're adding details to your landscape, one thing I want you to think about is the idea of size and space. Because when it comes to landscapes, we have drawn, if you have been in art with me for a while, we have drawn many landscapes. Last year you did the Generani landscape with the winter landscapes. And then the year before that, we had Grandma Moses landscapes. And we always talk about how in landscapes, when something is really far away, it's going to look small. And when something is close up, it's going to look larger. So I just want to show you that really quick so you can see what that looks like. So another thing that I really like about Hundertwasser's artwork is his trees. I really like his trees because they're always kind of fun and circular. So I'm making a tree that is attached to this ground. Remember, everything behind it is sky. And then maybe on the inside, I can give it some rings because his trees usually have some type of circular motion or rings going on. So since that tree is further away, if I wanted to make one that is closer up, it's going to be large. So I think I'm going to do the top section first, just so I have an idea of my space here. And then that's where my trunk would go. Now, since I went across this line right here, I would need to erase this. I'm going to have trouble doing it though, because I drew so dark. Okay, but if you go on top of your lines, make sure you erase them, okay? Now, I will have some examples for you to look at, but again, these landscapes can look however you want them to. It is entirely up to you what types of details you choose to add. The only thing that you need to make sure you're doing is making sure that your landscape is abstract. So that means it should not look realistic. You can tell what something is, like we can guess that this is a tree, but I don't want it to look exactly like a tree, okay? The challenge is to try to come up with things that look a little bit different. And as you are drawing, make sure you're drawing lightly and make sure your sizes make sense. So if you have something very far away, way back here, make sure it is smaller than what you have up in the front, okay? I'm excited to see what you guys come up with.